Welcome to the Guyana Dialogue. I'm your host, Shamise Ali. Good evening to everyone joining us on Facebook and YouTube. The Guyana Dialogue is being sponsored by a coordinating council of Guyanese based in the US, UK, Canada, Guyana, and the Caribbean. Funding support is by well-known philanthropist Dave Narayan from Dave West Indian Imports. Please welcome my moderator for tonight, Dr. Tara Singh.
Thank you very much, Shamila, and welcome to our viewers.
Good evening, Dr. Tara. Welcome. Our panelist tonight is Dr. Ganga Ramdas.
Thank you, Shamisa.
Pleasure. And our guest tonight is the Minister of Housing and Water, the Honorable Minister Colin Croal.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Good evening, Minister Croal. Dr. Tara, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Minister Croal. We want to thank you for sparing your precious time to appear on this program. As you know, we had several requests from viewers for clarifying a number of issues relating to housing and water distribution. But before I go, we want to extend our congratulations to the PPP for having won a very impressive victory at local government election 2023. They actually got 3/4 of the local authority areas, 6 or 7 out of 80, and they won, I think, over 906 seats in the 1,220 councillors totally in the countries. So they did exceptionally well, and they made significant inroads in Georgetown, where they moved the total seats in the city council from 7 to 11, and they did exceedingly well in New Amsterdam as well. They moved their seats from 3 to 6 there. They doubled the seats. In Linden,
Increase in Linden too.
They did well. They increased the number of votes by more than 6 times. They got 2 seats there. So we want to thank the PPP. They did an excellent job. It has nothing to do with incumbency because PNC had the incumbency in 2016 and 2018, and they lost both elections. So it goes beyond incumbency. It goes to good party organization, starting messages, accomplishments, etc. So we just want to congratulate the people on this magnificent victory. Dr. Ganga, you want to make a brief comment on the local government election before?
Well, I just join you with the similar compliments and congratulations to PPP for winning such a large, overwhelming majority. So the only comment I'll make is that with victory comes high expectations. So we have to manage those expectations. And the housing area is one of the best ways or best avenues for managing expectations.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Croal, we welcome you again. And if you want to make a brief statement on local government.
Yes, certainly. So, to Shamisa, Dr. Tara, Dr. Ganga, good evening, and good evening to all of your listeners. It's always a pleasure to be able to join you, to also for members of the public to be able to be updated as to what is happening in the sector. And more importantly, you realize in every sector in our country and our country in general, it's moving so rapidly. The transformation is happening so quickly. So that from the last time to now that we're speaking, certainly there have been a lot of changes and a lot of improvements happening. But you spoke about the local government election. There are a number of things that we must take into consideration, and that is, first of all, is you spoke about the increase in some of the non-traditional full support areas, and that certainly goes back to the messaging and to understand that we are consistent in what we say. Wherever we go across our country, we are consistent in one message, and that is to ensure that we work every day to improve the lives of our citizens. And in each one of the local authority areas, yeah, there was a manifesto that was presented. There's a document that has been presented, and we portrayed to the population that we have a track record. And if you examine that, what we came in 2020 with, We traveled across this country, led by our then presidential candidate, Dr. Fanali, and our general secretary. Traveled across this country and in asking the voters to vote for the PVPC so that we can be re-elected back into office. And these are the things that we say that we will commit to do. And we are on track. It's over 2.5 years in office, and we are well on track to fulfilling all our commitments that we have in the manifesto. So similar message was born on the ground in terms of we went to each one of the local area, took cognizance of the local issues, and so you'll realize that all of the outreaches that you may see by His Excellency, by the Vice President, by various ministers, the issues that comes out of those outreaches and engagement with members of the public would have seen some of those being manifested in terms of our commitment to the manifesto. So there's a bond. And secondly, having seen that what we stand for, you also have more persons who are willing to join our ticket, who are willing to come on board to work with us. And that is why you saw a lot of crossovers. And simply because they realize the People's Progressive Party Civic is the only political party that can truly represent all the people of Guyana and can truly ensure that we bring development for everyone, no matter where you live. And that is the message we want to leave with everyone. And that's the message we want to bring to everyone. If you look at our team, the makeup of our team, it represents a Guyana, what Guyana looks like. And so anyone who wants to, who is voting with their conscience will realize that the People's Progressive Party Civic is the political party to support. And that is why you see more persons are coming on board. And then we are also accommodating and welcoming because anyone who wants to work with us, we will work with you.
All right, thank you very much, Minister. Let's go into our subject matter. As you know, housing is one of the key elements in empowerment. Housing as well as education, those are two critical areas in empowerment. Now, if you can tell us so far, give us an update on one, the number of housing units that your ministry has built, the number of house lots they have built since you acceded office in August 2020 to now. What's your projections for the next 2 years until the next elections? On let's deal with house lots first, then you go to
Sure.
so if you can proceed.
All right. So again, let me go back to our manifesto commitment, and that we said to the people of Guyana, we will deliver 10,000 annually house lots, which equates to an average 50,000 house lots, and that's how we got the 50,000 amount. In terms of houses, that is not written in our manifesto, and I'll come to the houses in a few. But where are we at this midpoint? We have allocated over 23,500 house lots. Let me go that number again. Over 23,500 house lots. Measure that, and this we've done in 2.5 years. Measure that for coming off from the last period of just over 7,500. And you understand where we're coming from and what we're doing. And the magnitude of house lots and the allocations cannot be felt without us also speaking about the investment in the sector. Because in all of this, we also have to develop areas. We have to do the infrastructure work. We have to provide the roads, the access roads, the drainage network, because many of these lands, obviously, their lands were previously unused or former sugarcane land. And so, like in the case of East Bank, we have to do a lot of drainage. And I just came this morning. Today, I was in the Commerce Lodge extended area with our new housing scheme, and we have to do a lot of drainage. So there's a lot of work that is involved, and it's the investment. It's huge. So right now, even for probably later in the program, I can show you the investment in the sector by year, how much is being injected for housing, and well, we'll come to water too on the program. But having said that, that is where we at with our allocations, and I'll go through with you a number of the areas that we're speaking about where we're investing for new housing schemes, and you'll see.
Okay. Just a quick clarification. Before this point slipped me. How much does it cost? If someone want to acquire a house lot, how much would it cost them? Is a uniform rate or based on certain categorization of the house lots?
Right. So it varies. So first of all, let me go through the process of the applicant. So when a person is applying, and their source of income and their emoluments guide us in how we categorize you. So, for example, the broad areas you can have what is called low income, moderate, middle, and high income. So those are the various brackets of persons based on the information that is provided to us, or the verifiable information. And if it's a self-employed person, then they provide an affidavit. So that guides us. And when we're developing a new area or a new scheme for allocation, we have what is called zoning, because we take into consideration the location of the area, we take into consideration the depth of the area, and so these are, and where it's look, if we're in the particular area, we can have the front, you can have maybe a high or a middle, and then you go downwards and then you continue. So that's how we categorize the bracket for the persons for the
And
pending.
are the professional category included here? The
Yes, yes,
professional
because
home.
they will fall generally on the high income. And so
Hmm.
I'll talk how we come to about with the word term young, the
Hmm.
young professionals or professionals. So
Hmm.
they're generally on the high income.
So, would you have the cost for each low
So it
income,
varies.
middle
Right,
income?
I'm giving you coming to the cost now. So the cost will vary per area. So for example, well, right now, for example, East Bank, we're saturated with allocations because we have no new land to develop at this point. We already allocated those lands on the East Bank. But an East Bank lot will be considered, premium in terms of high income. You can have a low income lot that varies from maybe about 92,000 to about 300,000. It depends where. So, for example, 2 weeks from now or a week and a half from now, we will have a Dream Realize activity for the East Coast. And the area that we're developing is considered for low and moderate. So the bracket of the or the value of the land is taken into consideration. There are a lot of variables that are taken into consideration. So the price will not the price for the area will be consistent, but it will vary when you go from area to area. That is the point I want to make.
Mm.
And so that is how we derive in terms of offering persons. And the other point I want to make too is that when we offer you a land on the allocation exercise, you're asked to pay 50%, but we also give you 6 months to pay the other 50%. So it's if you can pay it off immediately, by all means. And so coming to the infrastructure aspect now, is that these are costly exercise. These are all virgin lands. And so on average, if one is to check on average to develop a lot or in front, the infrastructure work in front of your lot, on average, it's about $3 million to develop. That's I'm speaking about with the drainage, the road networking, because you have to sand fill, you have to dig out the mud, you have to sand fill.
So, let me just clarify this. You're saying each lot you're subsidized by at least $3 million?
Each lot on average, the investment, the cost, on average cost
Yeah,
to develop a lot is about $3 million.
3 million.
So in essence, persons on the lower bracket do not pay for the full cost to develop their land or the access to their area, the area that is. And this cost, I say, will include the utilities too, right? The electricity and
Hmm.
water. Because as part of our development first phase, is that we also run the pipes for the water, and then GWI connects it from external.
So the
Similarly,
so
pardon?
the cost for investment is borne by the central government.
Correct,
The
correct.
entire cost or
Entire
a
cost
portion?
is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Hmm. All right.
Yes, and then in terms of housing,
Yeah.
we have the president has mandated us to work on programs to or work with companies, individuals, etc., who are willing to construct their houses, and they are doing this at a particular bracket at a cost. So, despite the increased cost in some cases for the construction materials, our price for the houses remained consistent. And so we have various brackets of houses. So we have what is called the low income houses, we have moderate income, we have what is called middle income, and then we also have the young professionals. And this for the higher bracket. We have that is in both the flat and elevated. And so those are the type of houses that we are constructing. And so our design is consistent for the houses that we're building, and we're working with contractors to build those. Now,
I, I,
pardon?
let me, sorry. Wasn't another category of housing what you refer to as core housing?
Right. So the
Or,
core houses, no, the core houses, it's a program. That's a program that is funded through an IDB, and that's the Urban Accessibility Program. Now, the core that those core houses, we have constructed 50 to date. Currently, we have advertisements that are out for the construction of another 70. Now, the beneficiaries have already gone through a process in those core houses, although it's an IDB funded program, obviously the taxpayers have to pay for that. It's a program we had inherited, but in that program is that there's a criteria. The beneficiaries had to be earning less, I think, less than $90,000, and the value of the land had to be a particular cost. They had to own the land, and so we had some opening for the core houses. We have constructed 50 to date since we are in office, and as I said, we're currently advertising for the contractors to construct another 70, and that's it for the core home program. And that again, obviously, whether it's from through the IDB or any loan will have to be repaid by the taxpayers. And so, in essence,
so,
it's a
so how,
cost on the
so,
government again.
so how are the people selected for the core homes?
The
Uh,
core homes, as I said, that's a through the IDB. That process went through already, and so we had advertised and asked for, and we had put a particular bracket. They had to be living in certain areas that were determined. They had to be the
mhm,
value of the land had to be less, I think, less than 300,000. They had to be
mhm.
working for less than $90,000 per month. So it was a fixed
Okay,
criteria, and that's how we
okay,
derived those beneficiaries. But I
okay.
want to speak on, since we're talking about
Yeah.
beneficiaries, to speak about the persons for the houses. The
Mhm,
applicants for the houses, and so sometime when you see a house is being constructed by us, the beneficiary has already been determined, meaning the beneficiary has already gone through a process. So once an applicant has indicated that they are interested in their house or the particular type of house, take into consideration their earning, we send that to the bank and they go through what is called a pre-qualification process. The bank do their do due diligence, their interview, and if you, Dr. Tara, they based on your income, they say, well, then you could qualify for one of those young professional house. Then they prepare a letter comes back to us and it goes into our pool. And based on availability, then we will offer to that person. The cost of the land is paid to Central Housing and Planning Authority, and then henceforth the beneficiary, once the construction of the house commences, that beneficiary has 6 months to start paying to the bank for their monthly installment. But by and large, majority of the houses, the beneficiary pay for those through the banks. There are some persons who have indicated, they based on families and they support from family, etc., that they can pay for the cash, but that's in the minority. Majority goes through the banking system, and that's how we derive the beneficiary for the houses. So, since we're in office, Dr. Tar, just to give you an overall perspective, we have committed over 2,200, but 2,300 houses, various categories. We have completed in terms of handed over to beneficiaries. We have handed over 600 to beneficiaries. So these are people since the PPP is in office would have benefited from the government housing program and moved in. They've gotten the key. They've completed the entire process.
so the 600 houses are for the various categories or just for one
Various
category?
categories, various categories. So I can give you
Mhm,
an idea of where these are. So, for example,
mhm,
Commons Lodge, we did a number of what is called a moderate income. These are
mhm,
elevated to bedroom. We've done the in Berbice. We have the Williamsburg, Hampshire. We've completed 100 houses there. We have another 100, for example, being constructed at Ordnance Portland. Like we've completed
Mhm.
about 18 there. Then in Region 4, you have young professional houses that have been completed on the East Bank. Our next area that we're developing for young professionals, LBI, that is under construction. But I'm speaking here about completion. So you have on the East Bank, for example, Perseverance, Prospect. We have completed young professional houses there. And then we have also done a number of low-income houses on the East Bank, as well as we currently constructing some three-bedroom houses in Commerce Lodge. Region
Mhm.
3 has a number of houses that are being constructed. We've completed about 15 to date in Region 3 that we have handed over. Region 10, we've completed about 20 to 40, and we'll have the land clearances ongoing for the construction towards what is intended to be the 1,000 home program for Region 10. Bartica, similarly, we have cleared the land. We have advertised already for contractors for construction of houses. So in every region, it is intended to have a similar program to provide an opportunity for persons within that area. Of course, the type
Mhm.
of houses for some region, because of the level of income or the means of emolument in terms of being able to show your earnings may vary the type of houses that we're building. But we have under construction, we have at least another 1,000 plus under construction. So before the year is finished, we are expecting to at least hand over. I told you we've already completed at least. We're expected to hand over another 1,000 before the year is finished. Very common. The Cummins Lodge is one of our new area, and that is going to be is a massive investment. You go to LBI, as I said, is a massive investment taking place for
Mhm.
housing. You go to the East Bank on the Great Diamond, you'll see houses of various types. And I want to use this opportunity because I noticed today, I think I did a posting and someone put a comment on my posting, and that is alluding to a particular type of house that is being constructed in the East Bank. I mean, all kind of description is given to that the type of house. There, since we're in office, we have only got deviated to two developers for the construction of their houses, and that is based on the proposal that they submitted, and both are being done at Great Diamond. One is you would recall during the Building Expo, we had that announcement, and that is for the use for recycled materials, and they compress it and they make the blocks. So 50 of those houses are under construction, and there's another 50 that is being constructed that has not been handed over to us. So it's not completed as yet in our books. But I noticed there's a lot of criticism in terms of the type of house or the shape. Now, no one is, when those becomes available and once we pass them in terms of structurally strong, then no one will be forced to take any of these houses. These are all offers. And of course, you have to come through our system. You have to be a pending applicant. You have to be eligible for the particular house lot, be able to
So
benefit from.
these houses will refurbish. They are done by private enterprise, not by government.
No, the one under criticism was being done by a private developer
Okay.
in collaboration
The other
a
thing is,
company from Suriname and a local
uh,
contractor.
it's just a curiosity. Why all the professional homes are concentrated in Region 4? Why not in Region 6? Or probably in Region 3 in Mexico? Is there any reason for
There is
that?
Region 3. Region 3 will see the land clearance should have started. Region 3 will see some young professional houses being constructed. In terms of Region 6, we have to take into consideration the level of income for individuals. But just to assure you, the Palmyra development will have some young professional houses. Palmyra
Mhm.
will be one of our flagship new development area. Well, it's already, you see a lot of development started there already in terms of facilities. A
Mhm.
stadium is going there. Young professional
Right.
houses will be constructed there.
Okay. My final question before I pass it to Dr. Ganga. Once you allocate these house lots, how long afterwards it take for people to actually build? The gap time. Well, what's the average gap time?
So let's be practical. The lots that we're allocating right now, the infrastructure work will be in 2024. And those will, all those areas that we've allocated will form part before the year is finished. And that's why we can move ahead before others, is that we will advertise for all those areas. So by the time the new year breaks and the budget passes, we are able to sign the contracts because we are able to move immediately upon the passage of budget. So on average, then I would want to answer you is about a year. Accessibility
Mhm.
becomes an issue because, for example, the infrastructure works we have now, and if you allow me or you have the time, we can go through some of the area where we have
Mhm.
infrastructure work ongoing now. Those are for allocated areas that have been allocated already.
But if I acquire a house lot, do I have to go to a government contractor, or I can hire my own contractor to build a house lot according to the specifications?
The house lots are allocated to you. You build your whatever house you would like with
Okay,
approval, obviously, from the
and
local
I
authority.
right, and I can hire my own contractor. Okay,
Correct.
thank you,
That's for the
Minister.
house lots.
Yeah, Dr. Ganga.
Yes, this is very refreshing to learn about the housing program. It reminds me of the old CDC program at Republic Park, where with my low clerical income, I was able to put together uh, a building plan and have an insurance company finance it. So I could see similar elements in the program that you have here. It's well structured, and it's also income based. I was worried about that, how they're going to cope, but it has a structure and it's tied into the banking system. So all these are excellent features because I remember having to go through similar processes to get mine. I was the first person to build a house in the clerical staff at the Bank of Guyana. The others, after they saw my example, they started doing the same thing and acquiring the plan, the loan, and so forth. So this program has excellent features to tap into the system and to become successful. The 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 main thing that I'm looking at is the land zoning and the land use especially. So we need to set aside for segments of land for community development, especially cricket grounds. These days, with the social fabric that we have, we need to make sure that we have recreational areas and especially cricket grounds to engage the rural population. As they say, idle hands make devil's workshop. So that is one general comment there. In terms of land use, especially recreation. The other thing is, I looked at the website, and there is the application forms, but we need some more information in terms of a registry of information. You talked about the new lands that are coming. We need to have an idea where these are located. I remember I had applied for lands to help Surinamese uh, fisher people, and at that time, there were only 39 acres available in the whole of Guyana. That's what they told me at Lands and Mines, behind the old airport. I was very, very surprised. So now there are more lands taken up on both sides of the Demerara River, but that information needs to be put public so that people can make more informed decisions in terms of their location. So,
But
land use, especially community use, the registry, and the other thing I was concerned about is the lot size. In Republic Park, I did backyard production, and it was very good in those hard times. I think most people who have their lots would welcome a large size. But you covered the point when you said that the structure of the program is high, middle, and low incomes. So that would give an idea. But we should be mindful that uh, some people would like to have a more space instead of being confined. the housing areas that I was exposed to, and we built quite a few houses. Rumfeld, my uncle built those houses. I helped make concrete blocks at Prospect Self-Help Scheme, and the Republic Park. I'm very much aware of how that scheme developed. So the land allocation would be. I would like you to comment on that, especially the social amenities and the parks and other things.
Okay, sure. So, in designing every area that is designed, there are a number of things we take into consideration. One, of course, we cater for zoning, and in part of the zoning, we'll see for public open spaces. So, public open spaces will cater for expansion for government facilities, schools, even police stations, outposts, what have you, as well as recreational facility. Every new community that we develop or housing scheme that we are developing caters for recreation, every one of them. In fact, we have underutilization of these very grounds, because sometimes people call for everyone asks for a ground, but then nobody is made, they're not maintaining them. So that's what brings another challenge. But we cater for that, and that is part of our design. Now, excuse me, yeah, I'm a bit under the weather. But you spoke about space. Let's be realistic. At some point in time, if you use Region 4, for example, there must be at some point where we'll reach a saturation point. And so, for example, if you use East Bank of Demerara, we are we very close to what is called the conservancy, because we keep moving inwards. And that is, as new areas, we keep grading, we keep going in. It becomes much much more costly to develop. And so, in developing the lands, those lands are kind of swampy. Having said that, we have to be realistic, because I mean, for where you live, where you reside, you don't have that amount of land space to speak about. But if we utilize the very land space that we have for our yards, I think it is adequate for everyone to do kitchen gardens. We would love to encourage everyone to do a bit of kitchen gardens. We need more people to do that. But what are we doing? We're concreting the entire yard. That's something I myself tend to do. So we're concreting the entire yard, and we're not spending some time to have our own garden. So it defeats what you're asking about. But space is something that you have to take into consideration, because if you look at our pending applicants now, when we started, we were about 70 something thousand pending applicants. Despite I said to you that we have allocated over 23,500. In our system, we have over 90 something thousand pending applicants. So we're allocating, but we still have new applicants coming in. And why? Because people have seen the success of our program. They feel that yes, they can be able to benefit. They've seen the what the government's vision is, and so certainly they're you maximizing on their opportunity to apply. But I want to go back to something that Dr. Taro was speaking about, and sometimes we don't speak about this often. When we're talking about construction, the spin-off of construction sector, or even housing, let's speak specifically of housing, it's a huge spin-off. And so right now we have a situation where there's not enough labor on the market for construction. So even some of those persons who have come back, some of those what they call Guyanese that used to live in Venezuela, or even some of those Venezuelans, you go to some of the construction sites, you see them working there. That is why we've been working with the communities, some of the vulnerable communities, to even get them involved, starting with the block making, and then we are working on the next stage of them being forming themselves into group, so they feel that they can be part of the process, and you're solving another problem. You're solving a social issue too. But the transportation sector benefits. You go to the East Bank and you can see the stress from the amount of trucks that traversing, the increase in terms of the transportation for sand, and they have to transport other materials. The persons who, the hardware stores, they are booming. The people who are selling the snacks, even in the construction site, because they go with their minibus, or they go with some cart, and somebody during the break time, the laborers or the carpenters and whatever, they are buying their food or snacks. So it's everyone who are benefiting in this regard once you have construction that is happening. And then, so it's we want even more to continue in a much more meaning and full and aggressive way. And so that is why you will see to respond, because government investment alone can't do this, or the current budgetary allocations alone can't do this at the rate we would like for this to happen. And if you recall, recently, excuse me, recently you saw the commitment in the signing of an agreement with sourcing of funding from Saudi, and that is for 100 million US. That is to help for infrastructure, fast tracking infrastructure, so that we can even respond to be able to the for the persons who are waiting or pending applicants. And so all of us, your children certainly would want to, they would want to benefit from the government housing
All right.
program. And so we see the necessity to invest in this sector.
All right.
Our president, coming from this sector, understands it more than
Right.
anyone else, and has been ensuring that resources are being invested. Let me give you
All right.
two quick examples of the government's commitment for the housing sector. In 2020, it was about close to $5 billion was the budgetary allocation for housing. 2021, maybe about $19 billion. 2022, and we're counting, 2022, 32 to $33 billion. Right now, in 2023, we have contracts, but it won't all come. It's not all ending this year, so they'll roll over to the next year. But we have committed contracts that we have signed to a minimum of $55 billion, and these I speak about include both for infrastructure for new housing development, as well as for four-lane expansion, which I hopefully we get time to speak about. But networking, improving the access for road networking, so that all of us can get to and from very quickly as a result of the expansion of growth. And certainly, as more lands become open up, then we'll have to build new roads too.
All right. Let me just.
Tara, may I just add one small point here? Uh,
Mm,
the land use in terms of fruit trees, there, especially as you go close to the conservancy and you go close to the Pontrench dams, we had coconut walk, mango walk, different walks with different fruit trees, and people had to get permission to pick those fruits from the old estate. But we need to set aside public spaces with fruit trees as well, just like we do parks. If we did that, you will find people from the city going to the country with a permit in their hand, and they're able to make use. That's another local Guyanese kind of thing.
Yes.
Apart from doing barbecue and going in the parks and light the fire and so on, but we need to consider parks and mango walk, coconut walk, and these other fruit trees. They're excellent places. And my old abode, where I would go and pick and read books and stuff like that, at Covent Garden, they had a place called Coconut Dam, and that was a source of great satisfaction to people from the city all the way down to Craig and so on. They would come there and get their permits and make use of the spots. I just want to add that point there.
mm. All right. Minister, closely related to the question of zoning is the building code. Can you update us on the status of building code? I know you have a building code, but I'm speaking of updating it in terms of the new types of architecture and design.
Well, basically these are work in progress, and we we have not been the driver of this process. What we have been the driver of, obviously, for what we have responsibility is approvals,
Mhm.
approvals for building construction, and certainly that is why there's been a push to ensure that we implement the electronic single window. But there are a number of agencies that are also involved in terms of with the building code. So, for example, the materials and the type of materials in terms of ensure that it has quality for even electrical, because that's something major too, right?
Mhm.
That the Bureau of Standards has been the leader in this regard. But it's been collaboratively being dealt with, and it's something that has to be on the front. Obviously, we'll have to continue to be on the front border as
Mhm.
construction and different type of construction into our country too, because as resources are become more available, then people, the type of
Uh,
construction that you will see will diversify.
okay.
But but for your listeners who obviously are many persons are from the diaspora, I just want to let them know that we're very near to completing the process to be able to implement this electronic single window. You will recall we took the bill to Parliament, and in agreement with we agreed to 1 month for it to go to the Special Select Committee for the opposition's input. We have about one more meeting next Wednesday, and then it will be back in Parliament for the final passage. But the electronic platform. So it means you, Dr. Tara, will be wherever you are and you're applying for some building that you want to construct in Guyana. You can be able to do this online, initiated
Mhm.
online. You'll have a unique number and you'll be able to trace it because we want predictability. We want accountability. This is part of the complaint when I see some of the complaints that come from persons who are applying this. Sometimes they don't know what is required and then they complain about the length of time these approvals take. So removing all this subjectivity, and it's intended to ensure that persons are able to respond in a timely manner, which will be all agencies, whether the local authority, whether the fire board, whether the health, whoever is
Mhm.
affected because of the type of building that you're seeking permission to construct. So this will be a major transformation for us as a
Mhm.
country, because they once you speak about development, then we have to respond accordingly.
Mhm.
And so for us here, we see that as major. You would recall we already passed the legislation and we have implemented now. So that is what I speak here about the Condominium Act. So we now have you have legislation that covers that for condominium and townhouses type of buildings. So these are all legislative agenda that we place as a priority to achieve, and certainly
Mhm.
we're doing well in that regard.
Mhm. All right. On another question, how do you respond to criticisms that there has been lack of fairness in the award of contracts by the Ministry of Housing? How would you
So
respond to that?
first of all our contracts go through a public tendering process. We advertise, and because of the magnitude of our contracts, they have two boards. The large contracts, they have to go through the National Procurement Tender Administration Board. So we don't award those. That is not done at our level. And then for those that are under $20 million, those are done at the level of the Central Housing and Planning Authority Board. So not this is not done in-house. This is done by a board for approval. So I certainly categorically will deny such that is favoritism. It's a tendering process and it's open tender. We don't. I
Mhm.
we There's even selective tender. We don't really encourage. We encourage
Mhm.
everyone to participate. But you will recognize the magnitude of the type of the contracts that we are awarding, the lots and the size of the work. The You will have more for big players because there are different leagues, and that is why, for example, on the Community Roads Program, which saw collaboration between the Ministry of Housing and Water through CHPA and the Ministry of Public Works, as well as Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, saw last year the awarding of over 1,000 plus, about 1,200 community roads, and these are along the coastline that where local contractors were encouraged to get on board so they can build their capacity too. And then most of those local contractors obviously will take laborers from within the respective areas. And these were roads that are being encouraged to be done at concrete or asphaltic concrete. You have another set that have gone out. We do from time to time community roads maintenance in our housing scheme. So between us as well as Ministry of Local Government in terms of the local authorities, and as I said, the community road program, which is being implemented or overseen by Public Works, you have opportunity for smaller contractors. So even so, there's been an encouragement for others to get on board.
Mm,
The amount of work we have in the system, Doc, the amount of work we have in the system, it's enough for everyone once the ability and with the price. Obviously, once the tender and the evaluation is done, when the
mm,
evaluation is done and you come in at the right price, then you will be provided an opportunity to do that work.
mm.
It's an open
Okay.
trade. It's a transparent process.
Okay, thank you. I know we got a couple of minutes more and we want to move on to the water situation. But before that, Dr. Ganga, you have, I mean,
Yes,
yes,
just a brief
mhm,
comments. There are two sides to this housing uh, situation. You have L and I. You have licensing. So online licensing is fine, but you have offline inspection. So we need to look at safety, security, and also how to make the houses hurricane proof. And for that you need angle irons to tie the roof so the roof don't get blown away and things like that. So all of these features should be documented, put in a manual for offline standards. You know, if you take safety and doors, uh, the doors should be openable from inside without a key. So you have those type of locks that you can do. Incidentally, I manage about 7 different properties, including a 12-unit mansion building. And the L and I were behind me. Everything that I do, I had to satisfy in the US here the license and inspections department. Otherwise, there was a big fine. So we need to tighten up those areas and have it back home there. Mr. Narayan, he was the carpenter, but he did such a great job. You know, he wouldn't just put an upright with the screw. He would put mortise and tenon so that the building has an integrity and could stand up. I saw some things fell apart in Ruimveldt, I forgot east or west, I can't remember it. But the standards that we choose are very, very important under the different safety and hurricane proof and also the offline inspection.
But doctor, let me just give a quick comment though. Notwithstanding we're below sea level, so we'll be spared certain aspect of the in terms of hurricane. Um, we the challenge has always been for us for the houses. I'm talking the houses we're constructing. Is to be able to strike that balance to be able to ensure the houses remain affordable and of course structurally strong, both at this, simultaneously. And that is all because some if you can always add certain elements to it or certain niceties to it, then that will have additional costs. All right. So that is something we from governmentally we always have to be cognizant of.
Well, the benefits might tend to outweigh those extra little costs. Like, for example, you can use bolts in certain places in the construction framing and so on. Use of bolts and the type of timber that you use and joists that you use for the flooring. That all these are important things. And I'm not going to talk about grill work and all of that. That needs to be looked at separately and sensibly. But you can you don't have to board yourself and lock yourself in. So that's something that L and I should be vigilant on, right? Okay, so Tara, thank you very much
all
for
right.
this.
Okay, let's move on to water. Minister, what's the situation with the potable water? You can give us an update on that.
Sure. Wow. Oh, water sector. That's a lot is happening. A lot is happening. Um, Similarly, just if you've seen increased investment in the housing sector, we have also committed a lot of resources for the water sector. But there are three main things I probably want to, in your limited time, to capture for us to capture tonight. One of the complaints has been the quality of water being received at the household level. And that is because if you go, you travel, you feel the iron content, you taste it. Huh? And that is because we're about 55% now. Only 55% of persons on the coastline benefit from treated water. 55%. And so government has committed resources to ensure that we can bring this all the way up to a minimum 90% within the next 2 years or by 2025, well, the end of 2025 latest. So that's huge investment that we've committed for the water sector. So, for example, in the water sector, for treated water, and this is from between regions 2 to 6, and then Bartica proper region 7. We have invested, we have committed for this year alone, we have $9 billion for treatment plants on this year's budget alone. The overall budget to bring the treated water on the coastline to a level of minimum 90 to 95% is about $25 billion. So that's, we know what is our macro plan. So that's a major thing that we're focusing on for the next 2 years. We, in the water sector, we are operating on what is called a 2021 to 2025 plan, a macro plan. We have, and that's one aspect. The next aspect is for the hinterland. The hinterland region, by and large, when we got into office about 2020, hinterland coverage was somewhere around about 40 something percent. By now, with the investment, we are about 75%. By the end of 2023, we can take that to about 85%, and we are committed by 2025 to have 100% access of potable water in the hinterland. This will mean drilling of a number of wells. We've drilled about 40 wells in the hinterland, and for this year alone, we have committed another 40 or program for another 40 wells within this year, next year and a half. That's the second aspect we're focusing on. A third thing we'll be focusing on in the water sector is here in Georgetown is to change out some of the old pipe system that we have. Well, you can probably, maybe you can relate, but you know those old pipes that you see, those fat pipes that you see on the ground that you always now and then you have leakage at, for example, by Bank of Guyana, by the Senator, by in front of somewhere by Humaniana. All those are because if you increase the pressure for Georgetown, all of those, they will start leaking. So we're changing out those old pipe system. And so we're hoping to, within the next year and a half to 2 years, we will transform Georgetown and changing out some of those. Those are about 200 years old pipe we're speaking about. So they can't really withstand the level of pressure that we will want to put. We're drilling a number of wells across the coastline, and as well, I spoke about the hinterland already. We're drilling a number of wells because this is to satisfy two aspects. One, to increase the capacity of the existing areas because more persons are built and within their existing areas, and then we are building new housing schemes. So as we build new housing schemes, we also have to drill new wells, and so to increase the access. That is what we're focusing on. Another aspect we're focusing on is looking at the coastline, and this might be of interest to you. But how can we tap into the fresh water as a source? So we have one study that is to be done for preliminary studies are complete, tapping in on the East Coast for the Hope Canal. And then we're also looking at some of the other areas, the far-flung areas. So, for example, in the tongue areas, For example, in Mabruma, Bartica, because most of those water, Mabruma for itself, the area it's rock, and so it's very difficult to drill wells in some of those locations. So we're looking into Letem, Madia, Bartica, Mabruma to expand to do what we call small treatment plants for those areas, tapping into the river source, right? Because it's these are expensive, and these are things that the government is committed to. And the final major aspect that we look, well, two major aspects. One is to look at our reduction of water loss, and that is the non-revenue water. So we're looking at that. We have an aggressive metering program, and the other big thing that we have to focus on is which if we're talking about a modern country and a developed country, we must speak about the treatment of our wastewater. So that is another investment that you will see coming on board. As it is right now, how the waste is disposed of, not a desirable way. And I mean, these are happening long centuries old, but now we have to move in that direction. And so funding is coming to for us to address that. We have a pilot plan that we
Um, what
invest in.
is your ministry responsible for recycling as well?
So
Recycling
so
is that
waste,
is that part of the plan? Yeah, in terms of waste management.
so solid waste falls under Ministry of Local Government and Regional
Okay.
Development.
Okay.
So there is, yeah, so that falls under the, and I know they are addressing that too, because even in terms of waste management from their perspective at the regional level, not just Georgetown where you
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
at the Higgs Bosch landfill site, but you also have there's the establishment of what you call mini or regional landfill sites. But recycling is something that all of us will also
Uh,
have to focus on.
all right.
We all travel and we adapt.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
travel and we adapt. We throw it
Uh,
when I go to my sister and at home. I know which bin to throw in, for whatever material I'm
mhm.
disposing of. Why can't
Yeah.
we do the same here?
Yeah. Okay, Minister. I think our time is almost up. I know we really need you. We have to get you back because there's so many other
I'm
issues.
available whenever you're
But
ready, because I know tonight
this,
we didn't
but
go too
this,
detailed.
you're right, because you have given us so much information, which is a great educational experience for many people who are watching this program. Um, and Dr. Ganga, if you can make your final comments.
Yes, the three kind of waters. We have artesian. We have mastered the art of that, but there is an entrepreneurial opportunity there to have filtration boxes. So you can have sand, you can have coconut carbon, and aeration. Those three stages for the artesian well water. Then the creek water. I'm surprised that we have mastered much there, but creek water, you can even bottle it and sell it, creek water. And then there is rainwater. We need to get into harvesting and storage of rainwater. So
Well,
those three areas,
we have been encouraging the rain harvesting a lot in the hinterland. Because
yes.
even as you prepare, because I see the weather pattern has predicted maybe for the rest of the year, but I haven't seen that start as yet because we've been having rain, but they've
If
been pretty dry for the rest of the year. So rain harvesting is something we've been really encouraging the hinterland communities with. And so because no matter some of the houses, we wouldn't be able to drill a well to reach every household because of strategically or geographically where some reside. So yes, we are working on that, certainly in that regard. Yeah, but the inline, we have what is called the inline filter system.
yeah,
So a lot of upgrading is happening. So Doc, I'm I'm available when you were at your
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you were at your
yeah.
site.
We definitely get it
I
back.
would
And,
love because I would love to go
yeah,
through with
yeah,
you. Even probably can focus on one sector. I would love to go through what our plans are for even for
yeah,
the treated water,
yeah,
what our plan for every area. So
yeah,
persons, no matter where they live, they can understand that
yeah,
we are
yeah.
addressing.
Right. You see, the thing is, we are here, and people normally ask us. I was in Guyana a couple of weeks ago, and I travel Berbice, Demerara. I spoke to groups of people, and they raised a lot of questions. And so those are the questions we pose to you to get them to educate them. You know, knowledge is power. Informed knowledge is greater power. I pass you over now to our moderator. I don't know if she has any question from our viewers. Shamisa?
Thank you, Dr. Tara. We do have a question. It's more of a concern, and it's coming from Mr. Sugrim, who is the founder of the Humanitarian Mission, which is out in Berbice. As a matter of fact, they're in Anchorville, Port Morant, and he has sent me a video with specific concerns about the pressure of water and the times that water is available
Yeah,
in
we
the area.
rotating. I know. So
Thank
we
you.
have. So for example, on the quarantine, yeah, he's correct. I know him well too. For example, we've just completed a well at Chesney, that is satisfying that area, and we have additional wells that are being drilled because you also have situations whereby sometimes some wells they give up after a while. So we are addressing the quarantine itself too, and quarantine they're part of our massive program. So whenever I speak about dealing with treatment plants, simultaneously will be wells to be able to supply the treatment plants, because what is intended is that you power the distribution through the treatment plants, but the wells will go to the treatment through the treatment plants. So the quarantine is catered for expansion in this regard. And yes, I know, because at certain time they're rotating the water, so they turn off at a certain point in time in the night. I just asking the members of the public for a little patience. Little much has been invested in this sector over the years, and you'll realize from what I just said to you how much commitment government is making to ensure that we are able to respond to this. So within a year and a half to 2 years max, you'll see tremendous improvement on the water sector and the level of service that is received by the household, as well as the quality of the water that is received by the household.
Perfect. Thank you, Minister. At this time, I would like to thank all our viewers for taking the time to be here this evening, to our panel and moderator, Dr. Tara and Dr. Ganga Ramdas. Thank you very much. And to our Honorable Minister, thank you for taking the time to be here with us this evening. Until next time, I'm your host, Shamiza Ali, and this is the Guyana Dialogue. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Thank you very
evening and
much.
thank you. And
Thank
I
you
will
very much,
start out by
Minister.
saying Happy Eid,
Thank,
Eid Mubarak, but good evening to all your listeners.
yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ganga.